No matter how much you try to stick to your diet, we keep going back to junk food because we love the taste. But here's the thing, Wellness Warrior, you don't actually enjoy it. We would never say that the person on the park bench is drinking their life away because they enjoy cheap booze. We eat junk food because we can't not eat it. Have you ever wondered why you can't resist certain foods? Foods you've sworn you're never going to touch again? It's because there's millions of dollars of science, research that they're doing into engineering the cookie, cake, chocolate, or whatever treat it is that gets you going. They put money into making sure we can't stop eating it. Addiction is a chronic brain disease that causes compulsive behavior despite harmful consequences. This isn't a morality problem. The guy on the park bench isn't a degenerate. This isn't a weakness problem. We are not just giving in. It's about changes to our brain that make it impossible for us to resist substances and or behaviors of choice. And I'm even going to say substances and behaviors, because although we can sometimes be compelled by just the chemical need for the thing, often we drink at parties, have cigarettes while we drive, and eat popcorn at the movies. We've actually incorporated our vices into our routines. That makes them hold us even stronger, Wellness Warrior, because now we're dealing with behavioral and chemical connection, and basically our brain is going crazy. In the 80s and 90s, companies began to use what they were learning, so what science was understanding about taste and smell receptors and the impact of those receptors on food, so how things taste to us, to influence the flavors of the food-like substances that they were selling to us. It took decades for food companies to figure out how to strip all the nutrients out of the food and then repackage it into shelf-stable substances that reach the bliss point. So that's the perfect combination, salt, sugar, and fat, to make it irresistible to humans. That was necessary, Wellness Warrior, because as Michael Moss pointed out, taking the nutrients out of food actually makes it inedible.
Everybody wants you to cut back on salt. Why can't you do it? And this was a beautiful moment for me when I really realized there was a rich story to tell here, because Kellogg's invited me in to Battle Creek, Michigan, into its secret research and development laboratory where they put these foods together. But they did something really cool. They prepared for me versions of their products without any salt in them at all, to show me why they were struggling so much to reduce the salt. and I have to tell you, it was one of the most god-awful dining experiences in my life, because we started with the Cheez-Its, which, unlike you, I could normally eat day in and day out, right? The ones without salt, right? They stuck to the roof of our mouth. We couldn't swallow them because salt provides texture and solubility. We moved on to the frozen waffles, put them in the toaster. They came out looking and tasting like straw because salt adds color and taste. And the funnest part were the cornflakes. Put them in the bowl, added some milk, took a bite. And before I could say anything, the chief spokeswoman for the company is sitting there next to me, and she gets this look of horror on her face, and she swallows and she blurts out the word metal. I taste metal, metal. And I'm thinking to myself, I thought one of my fillings came out of my mouth and like sloshing around. And also with us at the table is the chief technical officer, who's in charge of all things scientific at the company. He starts chuckling and he goes, not everybody will taste that, but one of the beautiful things about salt for us is that it will cover up some of the off notes, they call them, or bad taste, that are inherent to many processed foods. And so all of those things make salt to the industry more than just flavor, which you're adding when you're cooking yourself, and salt's a great thing there. But it's doing all these things that makes the products sort of the industrial powerhouses that they are.
And the truth is, when you take these processed ingredients that are highly refined. They taste awful, and the only way to make them taste good is to put in salt, sugar, and fat. And what was fascinating to me, Michael, was that you talked about the science behind the salt crystals and how they apply them and the different shapes of them and what they do and how they affect taste and the tongue and stimulation. This is not just, oh, let's throw some salt on. This is highly scientific processes that they use to actually hook us.
What's scary to me is that the manipulations that they did worked so well that by the time I was buying my groceries, all of my snacks and most of my foods were pre-packaged convenience items that, of course, left me craving morning, noon, and night. These hyperpalatable foods, as they creatively called them, I guess they didn't want to use addictive in emails that they were sending back and forth. Maybe that would put people off. So these hyperpalatable foods cause our brain's reward system to be activated. That means my brain's reward system was going off every time I ate almost anything that I was making at home. That means that I'm teaching my brain that I need this stuff to be happy, or even I'm teaching my brain that I need this stuff just to be content with my life. So now I'm looking for it all the time. Wait, I'm going to pause here and explain dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that tells my brain that what I just did or what just happened is good and it should happen again, like repeatedly over and over. So eating garbage and then my brain's reward system going, do that again, do that again, do that again, is a bad thing. When we eat these food-like substances that have been artificially crafted to have the perfect salt, sugar, fat ratios, they haven't just made them taste good, Wellness Warrior. These companies are actually rewiring our brain to prefer the substance over real food. Every time I eat garbage from a major company, right? I'm training my brain. You're training your brain to prefer garbage. Your kids are training their brains to prefer garbage. Your grandkids are training their brains to prefer garbage. That garbage is what we're actually supposed to be eating. Now, here's the really sick part. You know how people who have a drinking problem but have lost access to drinking, right? So like people are paying attention to them now and they can't just go buy what they were buying before. Will do things like sneakily drink things like mouthwash or things with alcohol in it that most of us would never think to drink. Food companies have cleverly stepped in and trained nutritionists and dietitians to encourage all people to eat fruits and vegetables and grains and legumes and all the plant foods that processed foods are made from. We are bathing our brain in a river of sugar on a very daily basis because all of the healthy fruits and vegetables and that stuff that we're eating, those sugars help to push us back to cookies, cakes, and chocolate. How many times was I proud of myself for walking away from chocolate, Wellness Warrior? And it'd last a month, maybe two if I was lucky, because I was still eating rice and pasta and bread on a daily basis. Every day that I didn't eat chocolate was a struggle because oh my God, especially if I had to go shopping and I'm going to pass the chocolate at the checkout. That's where it's not bad enough that there's an aisle of chocolate. They have to have some at the checkout, single servings, so that I rarely made it through that checkout without at least thinking about picking up one of those chocolate bars. And often I just failed and that's why I would be, again, back to zero. And by the way, that's one of the signs of addiction. Constantly thinking and fixating on the next time you'll have your substance of choice because you aren't in control Today's video is brought to you by my keto consultations. You know how to do keto, but you're having trouble just sticking with it? Book a consultation with me and we're going to get you back on track. The link is in the description. And then there's also lying about what you've eaten or how much of it you had, right? Waiting for people to go to bed so that you can eat without them seeing how much you're having because you, heaven forbid, they know that that's part of it. Ignoring how this thing that you're eating is impacting your health, your life, right? How much weight was I gaining? And knowing that the chocolate was contributing. What other health problems did and I knew diabetes in my family, heart issues, all the things. And I'm still eating the stupid chocolate because I love chocolate. No, I didn't. I was not in control. The multitude of events that were ruined for me, and probably the spouse that I was with at the time, because I didn't want to go, because I didn't have something nice to wear, because why? Because my weight was changing rapidly all over the place. How could I have something to wear? And then if I did go to the event, I'm in a horrible mood because I don't like what I'm wearing and I have to eat stuff and people are going to be, which honestly would just lead to me getting home and what? Emotionally eating when I get home because, oh, don't worry about it, right? I know that ice cream will make me feel better, right? It's been marketed to me since I was a small child that ice cream and lollipops if you're a good girl. And if you go to events like a sporting event, you're supposed to have a hot dog with a soda. And when you go to the movies, you're supposed to have popcorn. Food will make every event in my life just so much better, right? So much more enjoyable. That's what we're taught. Wellness warrior. How happy was I when my joints were in pain and I was too fat to fit into the outfit that I thought was cute? Not happy at all. Have you ever felt like that? How happy was I when I tried to stop eating sugar and live through withdrawal? Another sign of addiction, by the way. Not happy at all. I felt unhappy to be I was obese. I felt unhappy to be obese. I felt guilty when I ate chocolate, knowing that I was trying to lose weight. I felt stupid when I realized that my nausea, ravenous hunger, mood swings, fixation on food during the first few days of keto were all a sign of me going through withdrawal. Well, this is where the story changes for you, Wellness Warrior. If you are new to keto, you get to benefit from my having lived what I lived because I'm sharing this with you. You don't have to go on in time not understanding why you can't put junk food down. If you're new, you might not have come across the fact that actually the pull you have back to fruits and vegetables and bread and rice, not to mention all the junk foods, is being caused by addiction. And that's what's making you fail to keep your carbohydrates under 20. You might have heard it before. Maybe you've heard one of my videos or some of the other people who are just starting to talk about it. You might have heard it before, but then you might not have quite believed it because, well, medical says you can't be addicted to food. It's not possible. I understand that, by the way. How is it that we can be addicted to sexual activity? That's a natural thing for us to do. But we can't be addicted to food. Somehow, to me, that doesn't make sense. They're both things that cause us to have that dopamine hit in the brain. Just saying, because there is addiction for that in the DSM. Just saying. Most drinkers don't stop drinking until they acknowledge that they're not in control, Wellness Warrior. And we are not in control of our eating. You know it. I know it because we've lived it. That we don't want to be eating the thing and yet somehow we find ourselves eating the thing. And once we acknowledge that we're not in control, we can find the support we need to stay on track. I suggest joining the Wellness Squad. There's a link in the description. I also suggest that you start right now today planning your keto diet more carefully because now that you know that you're not in control, Having a plan of what you're going to eat is actually going to be paramount for your success, right? The same way that knowing what you will cook each day allows you to order less takeout, having a weekly menu is gonna help you to do your grocery shopping properly and make sure that you have the food you need to stay on track with your healthy eating. If you're new to keto, my next video is going to be about food. You know, like what do we need to know about food? Make sure that we're eating appropriately. So I suggest that you subscribe so you don't miss that video. Check out the video on the screen right now because YouTube thinks that's what you need to watch next. Great, you're still here. I would really appreciate if you watch another video. That sends a huge message to YouTube that this video was valuable. Thank you very much for that. If you want to contribute financially, use the first link in the description. You can give whatever you feel is appropriate for the value that you received. Thanks for watching. I'm going to meet you over there in that video.